Welcome back, crew. August, and that means we've got a brand new tabletop RPG of the month. And this one I'm pretty excited for. We're diving into one of my favorite video game properties, something I always thought would be pretty suited for a tabletop RPG, the World of Fallout. And this one's the Fallout Tabletop RPG by Modiphius. And we're going to be diving into it throughout the month of August, starting off today with our first impressions of the system, going into later this week how to build a character utilizing the Fallout rules, as well as going over the core mechanics of the system, showing you how to run tests, how to handle skill checks, how to handle combat with the Fallout rule set so you'll be confident either as a player jumping into a game or a game master running the system. And then finally wrapping up with our live actual play of the game, which will be August 29th, that Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on T&J Gaming. There'll be a link down in the comments and description. Definitely click that and click notify me so you get a chance to see us go through and put this system through its paces. Also, with this, as always, we will be doing a free PDF raffle to one lucky viewer in the live audience. So definitely make sure you come through and get a chance to see how the Fallout system plays at the table. Have some fun with me and the crew in the Wastelands, and maybe you'll be one of the lucky viewers to be able to take this system home and be able to run it for you and your own crew. Yeah, let's dive into first impressions. If you're new to the channel, first impressions this is kind of us going through the book, kind of taking a quick look at some mechanics and things that are associated with kind of the core rulebook, and highlighting what stands out, what we're interested in, and kind of what we're hoping to learn more of, and just kind of seeing kind of what we first think of the system. So actually the biggest thing, one of the things I was kind of excited to try this for, I've heard things about it in the wild, but I've never had a chance to try the 2D20 system. So with this, it's kind of almost like a little bit of a dice pool D20 system, which I love rolling D20s. I love dice pool systems. So I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out. I'm hoping I really enjoy it with how many different components I love with it. But with this, on an average dice roll, or average check, I should say, you're going to roll at least 2D20. There's a couple different ways I've seen that you can get more die, like you can buy more die with EP points. And it seems like certain features and things will grant more of those. We'll take a deeper dive on that when we do our mechanics video. But then you roll whatever your d20 pool is. You're going to compare that, the roll on the d20 to your target number set by the game master. I think they call it narrator in this system. I'll have to figure that out, or facilitator. But you go after what the game master says is just your target number, and they'll also set a number of successes you need. So let's say you roll those 2d20, your target number is 12, and you get a 14 and a 15. So you'll get two successes since they're both over that 12 metric. And then basically what the game master decides if there's the number of successes you need. And if you get that, you'll be able to have a successful check. And if you fail, you'll either partially fail or you can kind of go into that a little bit more too. But it seems like a really interesting system. I love being able to roll multiple d20s, so I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out, especially with combat and seeing how many d20 you can stack in the pools, whether it be the combat or within like just general skill tests and challenges you go across. So definitely looking forward to seeing more of that. The other only other die that the system mentioned you needed, this kind of a high level view, it looks like D6 will be your damage die or kind of what you roll for your weapons. So we'll take a deeper dive in that mechanics, but it seems like it could be pretty easy. Just D20 and D6, which is always nice to kind of know exactly which die you'll need. Going through the book too, I'll say they did a great job of kind of representing the Fallout art style, with both kind of the cartoony images that you get in there too, as well as kind of the depictions of the wasteland and some of the creatures that are in it. One of the things I've noticed, and one of the things I was kind of flipping through, is the base system seems to be fairly straightforward, but there's a ton of different kind of modules and things you can add on top of it too. I was looking through like the survival section, and it has rules for dealing with radiation, rules for dealing with hunger, thirst, sleep, scavenging, crafting, all these cool things you can kind of add on top of it. Or if you wanted a more straightforward, simplistic, or kind of simple style Fallout game, you could kind of just rely on the core mechanics checks and kind of go from there. And I always like when systems like that, especially when you're emulating a property like this where it needs all of those additional rules, it gives you the option of piling those on, or if you don't really want to have the story interact with those pieces, you could just go on with the core mechanics. So definitely a big shout and something I'm interested in learning more about as we go into the mechanics video. Other things I saw with this one too is there's so much equipment. I know probably one of the worries with kind of coming to a video game, especially a video game that's driven off loot a little bit like Fallout, is that they probably wouldn't have your favorite weapon. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I was looking through, they've got like just so many pages and pages of equipment from your power armor to your nukes, to your energy weapons, to your uh capped weapons, all like pretty much every Fallout weapon I thought of was in there, except for the crazy ones you could build in some of the games that let you craft your own. So I think that's pretty sick. It's one of those ones that it kind of inflates the book a little. Not, I wouldn't say inflates. It's one of the ones because Fallout is a pretty thick book, and I know that can scare some people away. I think a good third of it is probably just like equipment as well. So it's definitely one of those. Don't let that scare you off. The core mechanics of it seems pretty straightforward, but we'll have a really good view of that once we complete our mechanics video. But it's really cool to see how much equipment, how much kind of love they put into bringing all the random things you could see in the Fallout games and making it playable at the table. So I think that's a really big, but an early rose on that side. Uh, Other cool things that they've done with this system is that it looks like they gave a pretty expansive bestiary in the core rulebook as well. I know a lot of times the core rulebooks usually just have a couple monsters, just enough that you can kind of run something. But I went through, I saw they had Deathclaws, Super Mutants, Ghouls, the Brotherhood of Steel with a whole bunch of different people for different ranks in there. A lot of the random mud crabs, all the things you can kind of find and kill in the Fallout world, or at least on a first glance all the things I would look for to kill in the Fallout worlds were included in there. And I think that's really cool to be able to do that in the core rulebook, just to make it very accessible for players to be able to get in, find the monster, find the thing that fits for their story, and be able to throw that in. So big shout out there to Modiphius and the creators behind Fallout for not making that its own separate book. And kind of on the same side of that coin, too, another shout out for them is they included a short quest in there, and it's called With a Bang or a Whimper. That you can go through and kind of see how the Fallout system plays. I always appreciate, I always usually do my own custom adventures when I'm doing the games of the month, but it's always nice though when the systems include those short adventures in there, especially for people that are new to the system or just GMs that like to run pre-written modules. It just really gives a really good entryway for people to be able to see the system and see especially how the creators intended to play out. And even for people like me who usually make their own adventures, it's always nice to kind of read through those and just kind of see some creator insights and get some own inspiration for how we can run the adventures within the Fallout TTRPG. So definitely a big shout that they included that. But overall, I'm pretty excited to try this one out. So this is my first dive into the 2D20 systems. Probably more to come, especially if I enjoy it. I know one of my friends really wants to do Star Trek sometime. More of a Star Wars fan, but I definitely would love to give that a shot, see how that plays the table. Conan. There's a ton of other 2D20 systems too that'd be interesting to see, and this would be our first kind of foray on the channel into that style of game. But definitely, this is one of my biggest, one of my favorite, probably one of my top five video game properties. So I'm really excited to see if it plays well at the table. If you've played Fallout TTRPG, shout out some of the comments, some of the cool mechanics, cool pieces of the system, or just things we should keep in mind as we go throughout the month of August and get to do some more Fallout deep dives. But yeah, thanks for hanging out and keep an eye out. Definitely join us on August 29th when we do our live actual play and get to see the system live and hopefully get to bring home a core rule book of your own. But thanks right now, and until next time, everybody.